What's good, everybody? It's your boy Agent P of the GLP here to give you guys your Nuggets talk recap for Cavs and Nuggets here on this Sunday evening. Not a good day or evening for Nuggets fans in this one. Let's get into the recap now. First quarter, about halfway through the first, Nuggets were actually playing well. It was 16-14 Denver. Nuggets were shooting 55% from the field, so it was a good start for Denver. Michael Porter Jr. got up to a good start at the 419 mark. He was up to 10 points, hit a couple of threes. But Strus and Niang ended up hitting back-to-back threes, got the lead up to 26-19, and Cavs ended the half up to 29-27. Second quarter, that's when the Cavs really started to run it up, went on a 12-4 run to start the quarter, went up 41-31. Craig Porter Jr., who I'm going to talk about a lot in this recap, had an incredible start to this game, 9 points, getting wherever he wanted on the court. He was really quick and was really attacking the basket in this one. 5:21 mark, Nuggets come back with an 11-0 run, cut the lead to 2, 46-44. Michael Porter Jr. knocked in another three to give himself 13 in the first half. But the Cavs were able to stem the tide a little bit, got the lead to 66-58 at the half, in large part due to their rebounding, more specifically their offensive rebounding. 8 offensive rebounds in that first half for Cleveland gave them a lot of second chance opportunities here. Out-rebounded Denver in general, 26-20. But the Nuggets shot well, so it's not a huge lead, right, as I talked about in the first half. But Nuggets shot well, 51% from the field, 6 of 13 from the three. But the Cavs were just really aggressive getting to the line. They were 12 of 16 in the first half to Denver's 4 for 4. So a lot more aggression from the Cavs on the offensive glass and from their attacking of the basket, as shown with those free throws. Garland had 16 at the half, Mobley with 12, and Craig Porter Jr. had himself a half with 11. Jokic, 10, 6, and 6 at the half, but had 3 fouls, was dealing with foul trouble all night. Porter with 13, 3 of 4 from 3. And at Julian Strawther had a sighting today. In the first half, 5 points, good stint off the bench, hit a 3 and a nice little layup. So I liked his start. But the second half was where things started to get bad for Denver. 3 minutes into the third, Cavs go on an 8-1 run. Cavs were just doing whatever they wanted. Lead ballooned up to 74-59. And then a couple minutes later, this is the inflection point in this game. A couple of back-to-back offensive fouls. I thought both of them were legitimate offensive fouls on Jokic. First one, he just extends his elbow too far on his turn. And then in the second one, he was just mad and frustrated and ended up throwing an elbow a little bit too high near Jared Allen's face. That ended up getting upgraded to a flagrant 1, and he had to sit the rest of the quarter with Denver down 17 at that point. There was good fight from Denver, and I'm going to talk about this stretch in the third a little bit more. But even with Denver fighting, they still were not able to make up any ground. They were down 17 at the end of 3. Fourth quarter, Jokic started the quarter, and I figured this is what was going to happen. Malone was going to be like, hey, if we go make a run, just put Jokic in the game. Who cares about the 5 fouls right now? If we make a run, we're in it. If not, then we're going to sit him. By halfway through the third, they still couldn't make up any ground. Starters come out, and that is your ball game. Cavs win this one 121-109 to move their record to 7-6 overall. For our segments tonight, what did Jokic do tonight? 18, 10, and 7, so not an impressive game for him. It's his first game under 20 points all season, and those 5 fouls. So when we talk about those fouls, I think it was an accumulation of 2 things, frustration overall and frustration of the previous call. So frustration overall because this was another Tony Brothers night, and if y'all are Nuggets fans, you know what Tony Brothers does and who he is to us, man. Just a guy who don't mess with us at all. We don't mess with him either, but it was accumulation of Jokic just being hacked, and there's a lot of contact. And this is something that Jokic deals with all season because he's a big, strong guy, and he doesn't really foul bait that often. He's a guy who looks to just score, and when there's contact on him, he doesn't really move or accentuate it that often in terms of trying to get to the basket and shoot free throws. So that happened again tonight. And that first offensive foul, even though he was frustrated, it was legitimate. The second time he came around, you could see him. He was backing down, angry. He turned. His elbow was too high. Caught Jared Allen in the face. Not flush, but enough to be upgraded to a flagrant 1, which I thought was legitimate. And just a tough night for the MVP, man. It's going to happen. It is what it is. I'm not too concerned about it at all. It's just kind of one of those games for him. Get into the other headlines for the night. We just couldn't stop Cleveland at all in this game. They were just so comfortable in their offensive sets doing whatever they want. They outscored Denver by 17 points through 3 quarters and shot 55% from the field overall. Out-rebounded Denver by 14. And on the offensive glass, it was just, like I said, in that first half, not a good sign for the Nugs. Free throw advantage did get a little bit closer. Denver ended up getting to 23 attempts. I think Cleveland, just once they had the lead, they were able to just kind of massage the lead, not really go as hard to the basket, kind of just figure out how they wanted to attack. And even after 3 quarters, they were still down 17. And I want to talk about that end of the third quarter stretch a little bit. That was probably the biggest inflection point for me, I think. I appreciated the fight that they had when Jokic got out of the game. They moved Aaron Gordon to the 5 and just had a lot of defenders, and everybody was switching and playing hard. I get it. Some of that play hard mentality was a little bit misguided. They played maybe a little too hard. Some offensive rebounds got away from them. And the biggest stretch was they were down by 12 at one point at the end of the third quarter. Played really good defense, cutting guys off from the basket. Darius Garland ended up falling in the lane in the underneath the basket. Got the ball back, kicked it out, and then George Niang just hit a back-breaking three. And I hate George Niang, just as a side note, but he ends up hitting a three that gets the lead up to 15. Darius Garland gets the ball back at the end of the quarter, hits a layup, gets the lead up to 17. You're talking about a 1 minute stretch where this game could have been a 10-point game. And if you're bringing in Jokic down 10 at the beginning of the fourth, that's a game that you could win, even if you haven't played well all night and Jokic has 5 fouls. But being down 17, it's probably just too much to overcome at that point. So I liked the effort that they gave, even with Jokic coming out. But that was definitely the inflection point in this particular game. For Cleveland, man, it's just, once again, Nuggets don't lose that often, but man, when they do, these random dudes be coming out of nowhere and just have career nights against the Nuggets. Another random player in this one, Craig Porter Jr., two-way guy. His 9th career game, he had 21 points, a career high for this young man. He got wherever he wanted on the court, got to the basket, was super quick, honestly hustled. The first shot he made was getting his own offensive rebound. So you can tell he was a guy who's going to be very energetic, and he played well. So to his credit, he played really well. I know it's me knocking him a little because he's a random player, but he had a really good game, and I can't knock that. He played hard, got to his spots, picked his spots well. But the reason I want to bring him up, besides just the fact that he had a good game, is to a kind of a larger point here. This is an area that Denver does struggle with, guarding smaller, quicker guards. You have Darius Garland, who's also fits in that category. He led the Cavs in scoring tonight with 26. KCP is a great defender for this team, and he's done an incredible job this year. Honestly, an all-defensive candidate, I think. If Asar Thompson honestly doesn't get too much hype, because Nuggets are going to see him tomorrow night. We'll see how that goes. But you see some of the struggles that Denver has with smaller, quicker guards. You see when they're guarding those type of players, it's a little bit more difficult. KCP, great defender, but with smaller, quicker guards, he has a little bit of a tough time with them. And the other type that Denver has a little bit of a tougher time with are those bigger wings. We're talking 6'8", 6'9" guys, kind of like a Paul George build, that are maybe a little more slender, not someone that AG is going to particularly guard. So despite Denver having a really good defender at the 2, that was something that was a bit of a weaker mark in this one. And I don't want to say it to too much credit, because I don't think it's that big of a concern. It's just for this particular game, and just something that can be a bit of a trend when we're talking about smaller, quicker guards. If they get switched out on Michael Porter Jr., Porter is good one-on-one with bigger guys, but laterally still doesn't move that quick. So if he gets caught on the switch with a smaller guard, that's going to be tough. KCP as well sometimes can get caught out on an island. And if Jokic isn't up to help on the hedge too high and doesn't do it quick enough, that's when Denver can get in tough rotation, as opposed to knowing that they're going to be in rotation most of the time. So that's just something to watch for. Another thing I wanted to bring up, man, is a player who has not played all season. And it is a guy that I truly miss, and it is Vlatko Čančar, man. I miss Vlatko. Going into this season, I thought Vlatko was finally going to have his chance to show how valuable he was for this team. I've liked Vlatko in his entire stint here at Denver. I just know that he's a player that just, once again, plays the right way. He's a great connecting player. He makes the right pass, knows how to make the right play, can do a little bit of everything, sneaky athletic, and would have been just such a great connector for this bench unit. He would have been able to set screens, pop out and hit threes, get some offensive and defense, get some rebounds, not more offensive usually, but get some rebounds, defend some guys, make the right passes. He's a great play. He knows how to play with Jokic. Like, it would just been really nice to see him off the bench play for this team so we wouldn't have to rely on so many young guys for Denver. It's tough that he tore his ACL for Slovenia, and that honestly hurt me more than it hurt. Vlatko being hurt me more than Jeff Green and Bruce Brown leaving this team, because I knew Denver's starting five was still the best starting five in the league, and we only needed to replace like 1.5 guys, and by playoff time, that's still going to be the case. But if we had Vlatko and only had to rely on Vlatko, Christian Brown, and maybe 1.5 of these other guys hitting, I would have been very, very confident in the bench going into the year. But because he's not there, it's been a little bit of a slog, and it's just going to prompt more of these young guys to have to step up. And we're going to see how that goes. We don't know how it's going to go right now. Pickett, Strother, Gillespie, Peyton, all these guys have been up and down to start the year. And I'm still not concerned. I'm never going to be concerned about November basketball, man, but we got to talk about what we see in front of us right now. And if we had Vlatko on that bench, I tell you right now, this team wouldn't be 9-4. I don't really got more notes than that, man. It was a blowout. Cavs were really good in this game. Impressive performance by them. Cavs always play us tough, even without Donovan Mitchell in this one. Cavs did a really good job overall. That defense really showed up for them, and offensively they could get whatever they wanted. For Denver, this is the first time all year that they dropped consecutive games, and they've actually dropped 3 of 4 now, so a little bit of a road skid here. And they're on this road trip now. They started it 0 for 2. They're going to try to get things back on track tomorrow. They play the Detroit Pistons on a Monday early one. It's 4 o'clock Western Pacific. And even though they've been in a bit of a skid here, I feel very confident that they're going to turn it around against Detroit. Let's just hope Tony Brothers isn't on the flight to Detroit. That's all we got to hope for in this case. Anyway, guys, thank you guys again for listening to the Nuggets Talk recap here on the GLP. I'm your host, Agent P, and I will see you next time.